You are thinking of someone right now, someone charming, successful, maybe even someone you trust. But what if their charm is a carefully engineered weapon? What if every single interaction you've had with them was calculated to extract something from you? Why do our brains constantly fall for people who secretly lack the biological ability to care about us? And more importantly, how many of these hidden predators have you already let into your life without even realizing it? We've been programmed by movies to think dangerous people look dangerous. We look for erratic behavior, unhinged expressions, and obvious villains. But human psychology is much darker and much more subtle. The most dangerous people on Earth don't wear masks. They wear tailored suits. They wear friendly smiles. They might even be sitting across from you at work or texting you right now. Psychologists call it the Dark Triad. It is a psychological cocktail of 3 overlapping personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. When these 3 traits combine in one human brain, they create a social predator. Someone who views human beings not as people, but as objects to be used, manipulated, and discarded. And the terrifying truth? You interact with them every single day. Here is exactly how their minds work and the hidden signs that expose them. Let's start with the loudest of the 3. The narcissist. Forget what you've heard about narcissism. It is not about taking too many selfies or simply being overly confident. True narcissism is a deeply rooted delusion of superiority built over a fragile, microscopic ego. They don't just want your admiration, they mentally require it to survive. Psychologists call this narcissistic supply. To them, your attention is literal oxygen. But here is the psychological trap they set for you. Watch how they listen when you speak. A normal person listens to understand. A narcissist listens to find an opening. They use an unconscious conversational mechanism called the boomerang effect. No matter what tragedy or triumph you are sharing, within 3 sentences, the conversation will mysteriously boomerang right back to them. If you had a bad day, their day was worse. If you achieved something great, they did it better 5 years ago. But what happens when you stop giving them that supply? What happens when you criticize them? This triggers what psychologists call a narcissistic injury. Their brain perceives your minor criticism not as an opinion, but as an existential threat to their fabricated reality. And their reaction will be wildly disproportionate. They won't just disagree, they will try to destroy your reputation, isolate you from friends, and twist the narrative so they look like the victim. Have you ever found yourself apologizing to someone when they were the one who hurt you? That is the narcissist's ultimate trick. But while the narcissist needs to be seen, the second piece of the Dark Triad prefers the shadows. The Machiavellian. Named after the 16th century political philosopher, this trait is purely about strategy. The Machiavellian brain lacks something fundamental: moral hesitation. They suffer from a chilling psychological split. They possess high cognitive empathy, but low affective empathy. This means they know exactly what you are feeling. They can read your facial expressions, understand your fears, and predict your emotional reactions perfectly. But they do not feel it. Because they don't share your pain, they can use your own emotions against you like a manual override code. How do you spot them? Look for the favor debt. A Machiavellian doesn't do favors out of kindness. They do favors to trap you in an invisible psychological contract. They will offer you help when you are most vulnerable. They will give you a small loan, cover a mistake you made at work, or introduce you to an important connection. But it's not a gift. It's leverage. They are quietly building a bank of favors, waiting for the exact moment when they need you to cross a moral line for them. And when they finally ask, you will feel a crippling psychological pressure to comply because they were there for you. They don't have friends. They have assets. Ask yourself, who in your life only reaches out when they are subtly positioning you on their chessboard? This brings us to the third and most chilling trait, psychopathy. When you hear psychopath, you probably picture a serial killer. But modern psychology reveals a much scarier reality, the subclinical psychopath. These are highly functioning individuals operating in everyday society. They are CEOs, surgeons, lawyers, and even your romantic partners. They are defined by impulsivity, thrill-seeking, and a severe deficit in remorse. The psychopathic brain is often wired differently. Brain scans have suggested that their amygdala, the region responsible for processing fear and emotional resonance, can be significantly underactive. They don't process anxiety the way you do. They don't feel fear in the same way. This makes them incredibly charismatic and unshakable under pressure. But how do you catch a psychopath hiding in plain sight? Watch for the subtle psychological clues. Have you ever noticed that yawning is contagious? If someone near you yawns, your brain's empathy centers usually trigger you to yawn as well. But some fascinating studies have found that people with high psychopathic traits might actually be highly resistant to contagious yawning. Why? Researchers theorize it's because the unconscious empathic connection that binds most humans together simply doesn't operate the same way in their brains. Many psychologists have also noted a behavioral pattern often called the predatory stare. While most people break eye contact naturally during conversation to process information, research indicates that some highly psychopathic individuals may hold your gaze uncomfortably long. They aren't just looking at you, they are studying you, assessing your weaknesses, searching for the crack in your armor. They mimic human emotion because they lack a deep connection to it. They learn to cry, laugh, and show shock by watching how normal people do it. It is a performance, and you are the audience. Now, imagine all three of these traits operating in a single person. The grandiosity of the narcissist, the strategic manipulation of the Machiavellian, the emotionless calculation of the psychopath. This is the Dark Triad, and they have a terrifying behavioral pattern. Did you know there might actually be a link between these traits and the dark? Fascinating psychological studies on chronotypes have suggested that people who score high in the Dark Triad are statistically more likely to be night owls. Evolutionary psychologists theorize this is not a coincidence. Historically, the night is when predators hunt. The darkness provides anonymity. It is when other people are tired, cognitively depleted, and emotionally vulnerable. If you are dealing with a Dark Triad personality, pay attention to when the deepest manipulation happens. The late-night text messages, the midnight arguments designed to exhaust you, the sudden crisis at 2:00 a.m. They instinctively attack when your mental defenses are lowest. But how do they get you to trust them in the first place? They use a psychological weapon called mirroring. When you first meet a Dark Triad personality, they will seem perfect. Too perfect. They will suddenly love the obscure bands you love. They will share your exact childhood traumas. They will reflect your deepest insecurities back to you as strengths. "I've never felt this connected to anyone," they will say. Your brain gets flooded with dopamine. You think you've met your soulmate or your perfect business partner, but it is an illusion. They are scanning your personality and mirroring it back to you to accelerate trust. Once they have secured you, once you are emotionally or financially dependent on them, the mask slips. The mirroring stops. The devaluation begins. Suddenly, the traits they once praised you for are the traits they use to humiliate you. They use intermittent reinforcement. the exact same psychological mechanism that makes slot machines so violently addictive. They will give you 3 days of silent treatment, followed by 1 hour of intense, overwhelming affection. Your brain becomes addicted to the unpredictable cycle, desperately working harder to win back the illusion of the person you first met. You aren't in a relationship. You are in a psychological hostage situation. So, how do you expose them before it's too late? You don't fight them. You don't try to outsmart them. You use the ultimate psychological test, the boundary. Dark Triad personalities are fundamentally allergic to boundaries. They view other people as extensions of themselves, not as independent humans. To test someone, set a small, reasonable boundary. Tell them you need an hour to yourself. Say no to a minor favor. Cancel a small plan. A healthy person respects the boundary and moves on. A Dark Triad personality will glitch. They will perceive the word no as a direct attack on their control. The narcissist will guilt trip you. The Machiavellian will subtly manipulate the situation so you feel like you owe them. The psychopath will simply ignore the boundary and push right through it, testing exactly how much disrespect you will tolerate. Watch the reaction. The way someone responds to a boundary tells you everything you will ever need to know about their psychology. Dangerous people don't break into your life. We open the door and invite them in because they know exactly which psychological buttons to push. But their power only works in the dark. Once you see the strings they are pulling, they can never control you again. Empathy is your greatest strength, but without boundaries, it becomes your greatest vulnerability. Never let someone weaponize your humanity against you. Think about the people closest to you right now. Who in your life completely changes their behavior the moment you say the word no? Let me know what you've noticed in the comments below. If you found this insight valuable, hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe to MENTRA and keep joining us as we decode the hidden psychology of the human mind.